very much. Thanks, Milay. So for the past 3 years, I've been studying entrepreneurship by interviewing thought leaders in academia, government, and industry. These are entrepreneurship center directors, educators, program managers, university presidents, heads of technology transfer offices, heads of economic development systems, corporate heads of innovation, R&D, and training. All of my interviews have focused on tactical operations, right? I asked the question is, how are you delivering entrepreneurship programs to entrepreneurs and innovators? Looking back 40 years, as an undergraduate major in economics, I studied macro and microeconomics, econometrics, and accounting. At that time, there were no entrepreneurship courses to choose from. In graduate school, my fellow MBAs sought careers in large firms. This was investment banking, management consulting, and accounting. Recruiting by large corporations was mainly from their corporate finance and M&A divisions. None of us were thinking about startups at that time. In the 90s and 2000s, as a C-level executive in Silicon Valley, I was hired by VCs to salvage their investments by either turning the company around or getting the company sold. These were the 90% of the VC investments that were not successes, okay? The investment stories that you never heard coming out of Silicon Valley. Not all startups can be Apple, Google, and Facebook. Even during the 90s and 2000s, entrepreneurship and innovation were not terms that I heard commonly spoken. I understand and fully appreciate that my story is an anecdotal N of one. However, it provides context for how universities teaching entrepreneurship in the last 20 years have changed the landscape for business success. My research across academia, government, and industry does cover a lot of ground. So let me connect the dots on what I'm hearing from thought leaders and share the trends on what I'm seeing. All right. Okay. Minimum viable product, customer development, hypothesis testing, and pivot. These are all familiar terms. Lean startup, business model canvas, agile development, job to be done. These are commonly used tools. In 2022, it would certainly be a rare exception to find a university that is not teaching these concepts. These concepts are fundamental to an entrepreneurship education. However, new research is driving new tools and innovative approaches to teaching entrepreneurship. A curriculum that includes these terms teaches what it takes to turn an idea into a deliverable product or service by using the scientific method of hypothesis testing and experimentation dealing with real customers. This process emphasizes rapid learning cycles and, most importantly, accepts failure as critical element to learning. Research by Scott Newbert, academic director of the Field Center for Entrepreneurship at the City University of New York, found that the more technologically intensive the products and services, the more important lean startup methods become. Employment growth in the 21st century will have to come from new ventures. So we all have a vested interest in fostering an environment that helps entrepreneurs succeed, grow, and hire more workers. We have seen tremendous growth in entrepreneurship programs in just the past 20 years in academia, government, and industry. You would be hard-pressed to find a university in the United States that does not have an entrepreneurship center and an academic program. The University of California system, these are examples of, they have 10 campuses. Think Berkeley, UCLA, and the California State University system with 23 campuses, the largest four-year public university system in the United States. All 33 of these campuses have active entrepreneurship centers. Entrepreneurship is being taught across disciplines, not just in the schools of engineering and business. The University of Colorado Boulder has an entrepreneurship center for music. Jim Hart is the director of arts entrepreneurship at Southern Methodist University in Texas. Millikan University helps artists realize that they are already entrepreneurs. Artist students have found that, hey, this agile thing is what we already do. Agile development is the same process for how we create our art. City University of New York has the Toe Knight Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism. The Fashion Institute of Technology in New York offers a degree in entrepreneurship for the fashion and design industries. There are now 65 courses in entrepreneurship at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology across all disciplines for a student population of only 11,000. Students coming out of high school now are selecting universities based on where they can best learn how to create startups. The dean for undergraduate admissions at MIT shared recently with me that more than 50% of those applying to MIT say they would like to start a company before they graduate. I think we all wish them great luck. The 55% of the first year program of the MIT Sloan School of Management enrolled in the Entrepreneurship and Innovative track. And this conference, your conference, is certainly a testament to the current breadth and depth of academic research in entrepreneurship. Let's review the evolution of entrepreneurship education. In 1967, the first contemporary MBA entrepreneurship courses were introduced at Stanford and New York University. In 1968, Babson College offered the first undergraduate entrepreneurship program. By 1970, 16 schools were offering entrepreneurship courses, and in 1971, UCLA offered the first MBA in entrepreneurship. By 1991, there were 57 undergraduate and 22 MBA programs. And in 2011, Stanford ENGR 245, the legendary Lean Launchpad course, was first offered. Entrepreneurship has brought new approaches to teaching. Experiential learning, active learning, learning by doing is not about read and remember, but is about problem exploration, design and inventing, and iterating solutions. The flipped classroom trades off lecture time for interaction between students and the teaching team. Instead of lecturing about basics during class time, the core lectures are recorded as video clips and assigned as homework. Ed Roberts, the founder and chair of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, advocates a dual track strategy of education that commingles practitioners with academics by having two faculty in the front of every classroom in entrepreneurship. One is an academic specialist and the other is an experienced practitioner. COVID was a positive driver of change and innovation in education. In the early days, professors told me that they were often given just 2 weeks to retool their curriculum for online virtual delivery. Over the several semesters since then, significant enhancements have been made and normalized, showing that academia does have the capacity to move fast. In the past year, I have seen several innovative models. California State University Dominguez Hills will be offering a side hustle program for students so that they can pay their tuition and graduate debt-free. At CUNY, the classes are set at zero textbook cost, where everything used in the classroom is freely available on the web or through their databases. And this enables flexibility in the types of models that they can include in the classroom. In terms of performance metrics for their programs, entrepreneurship centers are leveraging technology platforms to track, report, and analyze data on activity usage and feedback. In short, administrators and educators are applying to education the same entrepreneurship and innovation tools they teach to students. In their research on age and high growth entrepreneurship, Pierre Azoulay of MIT and Benjamin Jones of Northwestern University found that the mean founder age for the 1 in 1,000 fastest growing new ventures is 45. And data shows that the average age of a corporate CEO is 59, and that the average tenure of a corporate CEO shifted from 8 years in 2016 down to 6.9 years in 2020. 40% of CEOs fail in the first 2 years. The average age of a graduating MBA student is 31. What all this is saying is that most CEOs were educated before what is now a universally accepted entrepreneurship education was offered. Corporate boards of directors are making changes to hire CEOs who can implement a cogent innovation strategy. The head of a network of 17,000 mid-market CEOs shared with me that innovation is top of mind and at the forefront of CEOs, but whether they are doing anything about it is another matter. In speaking with the heads of R&D for a multinational electric utility company with 100,000 employees worldwide and a global consumer goods company, both of them discussed their visions for 2050, almost 30 years out, not the 3 to 5 years that we are seeing for disruptors today. In 1997, Clayton Christensen wrote in The Innovator's Dilemma that there are two classes of products, sustaining and disruptive. His message was that existing companies are great at sustaining technologies and products, but we're ignoring the threat of disruption. In a startup, 100% of the company is focused on innovation and entrepreneurship, searching for a repeatable and scalable business model. In a large corporation, 99% of the company is focused on the execution of the current business model by building repeatable processes and procedures. Large companies do not have the mandate, budget, or people to build an end-to-end innovation pipeline process that they need to avoid disruption. According to Steve Blank, instead of true innovation, what these corporations are promoting is entrepreneurship theater. Entrepreneurship theater is activities like accelerators, hackathons, and competitions. Because these activities are often disconnected from the mainstream business model, they will be killed by internal forces before they have a chance to get to production and be delivered all the way through the existing sales channel. If a company does not have an end-to-end innovation pipeline process, that product is not on the division general manager's schedule, and they have no budget, people, or incentive to bring it to market. If this wasn't enough, large corporations are competing with startups that are funded with unimaginable capital. PricewaterhouseCoopers just released a report in January titled Living in a World of Unicorns, showing that there has been a rapid acceleration in the number of unicorns in just the last 3 years. Unicorns are defined as privately owned, VC-backed companies valued at $1 billion or more USD. Between 2005 and 2010, there were only 14 companies that became unicorns. In 2016, that number grew to 165 unicorns. By 2021, there were 743 unicorns. The innovations of many of these unicorns will be fully realized in just 3 to 5 years. Historically, these types of technologies have taken 20 years to scale. The widely recognized McKinsey Three Horizons model suggests that Horizon 3 disruptive innovations take many, many years to develop. In today's world, this is no longer the case. Horizon 3 disruption ideas can now be delivered as fast as ideas for Horizon 1 existing products. As new innovations are scaled and as we complete our transformation to a digital economy, incumbent companies will increasingly be operating in the unicorns world. Incumbents will be reacting to unicorns because the prevailing business model for incumbents does not support quick reactions to market changes. If we look at venture capital funding trends, the number of venture deals rose 230% from 14,000 in 2012 to 32,000 in 2021. Crunchbase data shows that early stage startups raised $201 billion in 2021. This is 100% or $100 billion more than the previous year. And seed stage startups raised $30 billion in 2021, a 50% year-on-year increase. Most large corporations do not have the juice to outbid VCs competing for disruptive technologies. It's no surprise then that we are experiencing disruptive entrepreneurship and innovation across all sectors. In ag tech, vertical farming and scalable indoor hydroponic farming can be done within major cities. Why truck tomatoes 3,000 miles from California to New York? In fintech, look at the platformization of consumer financial services. In healthcare, rapid drug and vaccine development that uses mRNA reduced the impact of COVID and will reduce the impact of future COVIDs. In transportation, electric vehicles like Tesla and Lucid are disrupting incumbent auto manufacturers. Mobility platforms like Uber are rebooting our cities. All right, so let's put it all together. The first phase of entrepreneurship developed the frameworks, methodologies, and tools for teaching, learning, and executing. I see the next phase of entrepreneurship as platform development to leverage underutilized entrepreneurship assets within existing and emerging ecosystems. University and government ecosystems are already leveraging each other's assets. We see this with examples of the National Science Foundation I-Corps program at 99 universities and the Small Business Administration supporting 1,000 SBDCs co-located at universities and community colleges. More advanced universities have built entrepreneurship ecosystems across disciplines for students, faculty, adjuncts, postdocs, mentors, and administrators. And they have included the alumni entrepreneurs and local business communities. Implementing platforms that enable near real-term feedback loops will accelerate enhancements and innovation to enable ecosystems to operate and scale more efficiently and further leverage underutilized assets within the ecosystem. An example of a vastly underutilized and hugely valuable asset is the cadre of 900 trained I-Corps faculty who guide an average of only one cohort of 8 to 10 startup teams per year. And this is over a 10-week course. Industry, specifically large incumbents, have a different set of challenges. but all companies are concerned with disruptive innovation in their sectors. So here are the dots that I have connected. Universities are graduating vast numbers of students across all disciplines, trained in the standard frameworks and language of entrepreneurship. CEOs of large incumbents, averaging 59 years of age, were educated on how to execute business plans, not how to avoid disruptive innovation. CEOs who want to keep their jobs need to sell an end-to-end innovation pipeline strategy to their corporate boards and management teams. Venture capital is making huge investments across all sectors in disruptive technologies and disruptive business models. Large incumbents have historically looked to consulting firms for solutions. That approach has failed, not only because it is not in the consultant's interest to implement a self-sustaining, innovative pipeline, but also because each consulting firm proposed unique proprietary solutions, not a standard, widely taught and accepted framework for entrepreneurship. Corporations are now looking to academia for proven solutions. The lean methodology of hypothesis testing and agile development has been perfected over the last 11 years. There is a vast underutilized cadre of ACERE entrepreneurship instructors available to teach corporate intrapreneurs how to fish. That builds an internal innovation pipeline and culture integrated into the established corporate R&D process. Implementing an intrapreneurship ecosystem can support a continuous innovation pipeline that enables intrapreneurs to leverage the tacit knowledge holders and stakeholders within a corporation so that disruptive innovation becomes an integral part of the R&D process. A corporate intrapreneurship platform can track the right kinds of activity to incentivize support for innovation and not kill innovation. The next phase of entrepreneurship will be ecosystem platforms to optimize underutilized entrepreneurship resources for academia, government, and industry. Thank you. I believe we have some time for some questions.
Yes, we do, Phil, and I'm sorry. As I said earlier, you've got so much very, very useful information and concepts and advice. I hope we can raise some discussion in the next 5 minutes. Please, if you have any questions, you can put them in the QA right now, or we can enable you to put your question directly to Phil. One of the things you mentioned, Phil, was the acceptance of failure to be taught in some of our education programs.
Yeah.
How do you think that can be done? And I mean, it's more of a cultural thing, isn't it? Acceptance of failure.
Well, it is a cultural thing, but if you look at, just take my experience, right? In Silicon Valley, 90+% of startups fail. Okay, there's a culture right there.
Yeah.
Okay, we do accept failure. And that's a model that I'd like to see, and large corporations need to embrace, which is kind of the VC model, where you have a funnel that goes into the pipeline of, 90% of the concepts that you're going to test the hypothesis of are going to be, killed early on before they get into the R&D process. But that 10% or 5%, that makes it into the R&D process is going to be embraced, make it through, and be disruptive. My point is as follows: is that that's going to be the challenge, I think, more for corporations than for students in out there developing their own startups.
It's interesting, and the next panel is going to address this particular question. With the Australian government just last week announced a $2 billion fund for the commercialization of research. And the CEO of Universities Australia used this term, which I've used it in the past when I was teaching innovation at the University of Melbourne, value of death. How do we get products to get across to that value of death that I think Christensen was also referring to? Yeah. What you just said, that more than 90% of these products end up in the value of death. So that's going to be the real challenge. And that acceptance of failure is going to be an important part of the culture moving forward, I think.
Well, one of the things that I've been impressed with is the NSF, National Science Foundation, ACERE program, which, what it does is it trains research scientists at universities to be more cognizant of the end product that is that customers, that people may need. So even the NSF ACERE program, which is based on Stanford's Lean Launchpad, Lean Startup, Lean Launchpad course, not all of them succeed. And I think that what I understand that is greatly valuable is that even for those research scientists that realize going through the program and they say, gee, this dog ain't gonna hunt, they will go away with the knowledge of the framework, tools, and methodologies for the next time.